it is very difficult in this age and time, given the fact that customers want to go global, to run most IT resilience on premises, right? And that's why it's important for you as a CISO or an head of IT person here, or a cybersecurity person here, to start thinking cloud, right? In the cloud, it is way much easier. It is easier to implement some of all the structures that address to this framework. And first thing is cloud-based data protection and redundancy. We have services like within AWS, because we're an AWS partner, like AWS Backup, Amazon S3, that already has all these automated backups in place to ensure that your data is available. For instance, now, your data in S3, so S3 is AWS object storage file, is replicated automatically, very cheap, across 3 availability zones. Across 3 availability. So 3 availability zone is, one availability zone is a list of data centers. One availability zone is data center that have multiple rack connected to them. Now, a replica of that is in another location within that same country. So in AWS alone, you have what we call at least 3 copies of your file within a country, and that can be a region, right? Which I'm going to show something about that later from an architectural point of view. And I'm saying something like S3, by just putting it in S3, by just using a service called S3, it automatically does that for you. So you can also keep redundant copies across different AWS regions. So just as you have, so AWS has a region in, say, Cape Town now, you can have another of the copy of your data replicated. Say, okay, in case the Cape Town region goes down, you can have a copy of that in an island region. Same copy, doing consistent, what how will I say, consistent replication for you by just in doing services. And when it's doing the backup, it does incremental backup just to minimize your what RPO. You know, I mentioned the point of RPO. So there are already services in place that you can just plug into. Then also another strategy you can do is, and we at Data Melon, we are big on this. We tell our customers, no matter any architecture you are doing, from a migration point of view, from a deployment point of view, it must be highly available. You must have an highly available architecture. Don't just deploy all your workloads in just one particular zone. We need to ensure that, okay, this is deployed in it, but is replicated at least in a minimum of 3 availability zones, which I mentioned earlier, with automated failover mechanism in place. For instance, traffic, you must have something like called a load balancer, which I will show. I'll talk from an architectural point of view. But highly available and automated failover mechanism must be in place. Then most importantly, security measures and DR testing must be in place. So we ensure that one of the things we do is we start from identity and access management point of view. We ensure that who are the people that have access to your environment, right? You need to give out access based on the concept of what? Principle of least privilege. Only give people what they need. If somebody wants to view a service, only give him access to view. Don't give him access to edit. Don't give him access to create. Then we put measures in place, like guard duty, to ensure that every of your environment is threat detecting, right? And you have a single pane of glass to see what is happening from the security posture point of view, and you can be proactive to real-time threat management. So when auditors come and are looking for maybe pen testers, when they see some of all these things in place, they then say, oh, your environment is fine from a cloud point of view, right? Because you have these security measures in place to tackle some of the principles of ISO 27031. Then most importantly, regularly test your disaster recovery plan. It's not just enough to have it. Simulate attacks and see how your business responds to it. And most importantly, like I mentioned, key approaches again is define business-centric RTO and RPO objective. Don't just design a RTO for all your workloads, and all your workloads are not the same. Depending on the critical need of your application, you need to have a specified RTO and RPO for it. So it's also important that you define a business-centric one so that you doesn't affect your business. If you know there's an application that cannot survive minimum any downtime, then it should have a separate architecture, different from the others.